Hey guys, so today's Steppin' on Sunday. Again, I'm trying a new filming location, but like my other bookshelf is in the way and I really feel like there's no way to get the whole entire lot in except if the camera is basically in my wardrobe, but at least you get to see you know, Baby Yoda and my polar bear, which is exciting. But for today's Steppin' on Sunday video, we're going to be talking about new authors we read in 2021. And this year so far, I've only actually read 7 new authors, but 2 of them I didn't like their books, which is a really big shame for me. So I picked the least shit of the books out of those 2 authors to put on my list, and then I put an author on my list that I haven't actually read their book, but I'm reading it at the moment, so it will be a finished book in 2021, and I have predictions that it's going to be a 5-star read, so I think it can count. It just doesn't count right now, but it will count by the end of the year. But seriously, there was 5 new authors that I read this year that I absolutely loved, and I can't wait to read more of their stories, and I'm excited for this video. So the first new author for me was Talia Hibbett. So she wrote Get a Life Chloe Brown, Take a Hint Danny Brown, and Accurate Eve Brown. So I read this whole trilogy this year, which is quite shocking to me because I never read or finish anything ever. And this is the only thing on the video that I filmed at the start of the year of series I wanted to start and finish that I actually managed to do, because this was a start series and I even went beyond and finished it, but I'm very proud of that. I think that she writes very realistic stories, and I like the way that the characters like understand each other and also like how they relate to each other, and when they're having their big arguments and different things happen, I just feel like it feels very realistic the way that they handle their situations. And she writes a very cute story, but then the smut just hits you and it's like, whoa. But I love this book so much, and I can't wait for her new trilogy that she is going to be writing, but there isn't a release date at the moment, and I really want to know who it's going to be about because I've got my suspicions, but there's 3 possible options and I don't know which one's going to be like the first one. Definitely an author I recommend to people to read if they haven't picked it up yet, and even if you aren't into the adult contemporary thing, this is a good one to get you started. Next, I want to talk about Alexis Hall, who wrote Boyfriend Material, which is an audiobook I listen to, so I don't own it physically, so I have to put a photo in. A few of these are audiobooks too. I only own books for 4 of the authors out of the 7. I'm still debating if this is actually going to be my favorite book of the year because I read another book more recently that I actually really enjoyed as well. So I thought that I was going to struggle this year trying to pick my favorites, but now I'm like, ooh, it's going to be like a battle. But I loved this story so much, and I loved the writing, and I loved how over the course of this book these characters became so endearing to me. Like, Alexis Hall wrote such a unique story, and I'm so excited because there's going to be a sequel next year, which is Husband Material, and I want to see them get married, and I'm just very keen to just see what else they write. They have such a wide range of storytelling that they could do, and I'm really excited, and I also love how well they write banter, and it's just a fun time. Next, I want to talk about Angie Hochman that wrote Shipped, because this book was great. This is obviously also going to be one of my favorites because I had so much fun with it, but when it started I didn't get like that into the story, but then it's like I hit like the 3rd or 4th chapter and it just like blew me away how excited I was to keep reading this book, and I had so much fun. And she writes such endearing male characters, like even though the main character Henley, she's great, but Graham was actually the thing that was most endearing to me in this book. Like, he was such a like superior dude, and it's like, you know, he wasn't written with the male glaze, he was written with the female glaze. Like, oh my gosh, I loved it so much. And she has another book coming out next year where it's like this woman, I think, is in a coma and she dreams about the perfect dude, and then she finds out he doesn't exist, but then she meets him, and I'm like, yes, give me this book now. Like, I feel like she's going to become an auto-buy contemporary author for me, like most of the ones on this list. Next, I want to talk about Emily Henry, who wrote Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation, and to be honest, I actually read this one first before I read this one, and after reading this one and being totally obsessed and loving the story, I paid for this one, and then this one wasn't my favorite, so like I'm kind of sad about it. But like, so many people recommend this book, but the second one was what I was more excited about, and like, yes, it took more than half the book before I started to get it and really like the characters, and I actually really like Gus as a character. But Poppy and Alex absolutely have my heart. I loved their story, I loved their relationship, and Emily Henry is an author that I actually already own one of her books, but it's one of her young adult books that she wrote like a couple of years ago, and then she got rebranded to be an adult contemporary author. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize that she actually has written like other books, but they just don't get talked about anymore. So I do plan on reading that book now that I know how well of an author she is. I think she just writes really captivating relationships, and I get really invested in how they're going to end and what they're going to do. And I also like the way that she like obviously has like the happy lovey-dovey theme going on throughout her books, but there's always that serious tone of something that the character is going through and they're having a really hard time getting through it or connecting with it, and the main love interest is the reason that they're able to get through some of these situations so that they feel just a little bit better. And she's also writing a book next year about someone who's a book reviewer, and I'm so keen. And lastly, of the authors that I really liked, I really want to talk about Aiden Thomas, who wrote Cemetery Boys, and it took me forever to get to this book, and also a really long time to actually listen to the audiobook, because every time I picked it up I just wasn't in the mood. But honestly, this book was written so well, and I feel like I learned so much more about the culture, and I had a really fun time with it, and I loved following the relationship. And Aiden Thomas has a Peter Pan retelling that they have released, and they also have another book that's coming out. So I've got the Peter Pan retelling saved on my audiobook list so I can listen to it at some point, but I'm still kind of on like a contemporary binge at the moment. Like Cemetery Boys was something very different from what I've been listening to for most of the year. I just find listening to fantasy books can actually be so draining because you really have to focus. But with contemporaries, like especially when you're driving, if you zone out for a second and you miss like a couple of sentences, you're just like, oh, I can keep up with this, it's fine. But with a fantasy book, you could literally miss like the biggest key plot point from like one sentence and you'd be like, oh, what? But yes, I loved this book so much, and I just think that Aiden Thomas has such potential to grow as an author, and I'm so excited. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the author that wrote a book that I'm not a big fan of, and that is Emery Lee, who wrote Meet Cute Diary. I listened to this book and I just wasn't a fan. Like, I really liked that there was the trans rep and the idea of it being a fake dating story, and also having this place where he writes on Tumblr different meet cute stories so that other trans people can feel seen, and then they see this and they think that no, I'm not so alone, which is a very good concept. It's just the main character was an asshole. Like, I was not a fan of how the main character related to anything and reacted to situations, and especially how they just think the world's against them, yet they deserve everything. And I know a lot of people are like this, but this main character was just like very irritating, and I couldn't connect with them in this story. And I'm kind of hesitant to read anything else from Emery Lee because I don't want to read another character that's just gonna irritate me this much. Like, as I said, the main principle of the story was actually really cool and really insightful, and I enjoyed that. So the author wrote a really good story there. But I just don't know if I could give them another go because I'm just concerned, because it wasn't a fun time. And I actually buddy read this one with Miranda, and she did have like similar feelings about the character, but I was more annoyed about them than she was. But it was good to be able to have a reading experience of having someone to read it with so that I could just like rage about my feelings. But yeah, I'm not sure if this is someone I would give a second chance to, depending on what they write next. And the author that I haven't actually really finished anything by them at all is Hazelwood, who wrote The Love Hypothesis, which has really taken the book world by storm. I feel it's in the same degree as how Beach Read kind of took everyone over, and it's got like nearly 3,000 readings on Goodreads, and I think this one's up to 80,000, and just everyone was talking about it. I'm 76 pages in, and I can already tell that I'm going to love it. But the main reasons I know I'm going to love it is this author actually read a lot of fan fiction about Kylo Ren and Rey, and like literally that's like Kylo and that's Rey. Like, you can see where she's kind of based it off, but I've heard from a lot of people that even though she's based it off kind of their dynamic, they're still their own people. Obviously this book is about Adam and Olive, but I'm very excited to read this, and I also know that I'm very keen to read the demisexual rep in this book, because I'm pretty sure I haven't actually read a book with that in it before, but I really wanted to like learn more about it. Like, I feel like it's something that should be written about more, and even asexuality doesn't get written about as much as it should. And it's really good that we're having like, you know, the lesbian and the gay and the bisexual representation, but it's nice to have an adult contemporary especially that deals with this for people that are more in the same age that, well, I am, because she's 26, I'm 23, but it's cool to read about it, and I'm excited to keep going with this story. And I just feel like this author is gonna do a good job. Like, as I said, I've read 76 pages and I'm already low-key obsessed with this story, and it's got fake dating and it's got a lot of things that I really love, and there's gonna be a second one in this book about different characters next year, which I definitely think I'm gonna pick up, and I'm excited. I do love that all of my new authors this year were basically adult contemporaries. It's all I read now. Like, honestly, like, I'm not even mad about it, because I love this kind of stuff, but the amount of fantasy in this room, because obviously you guys know this is the fantasy nook, that's the contemporary nook, I don't reach in here very often. Like, I mean, yes, I've only had this set up for like 2 weeks, I think it's 2 weeks. But like, I feel like I could be like doing more in this room. But I probably will. Next year I'll probably try to like start reading different things, but still keep reading this because it's so much fun. But anyway guys, that is all for today's videos. Like, I do find that in the past couple of years I haven't really been reading a lot of new authors, because a lot of the authors that I read from just release more books and I just generally like gravitate towards those. But I'm still proud of the, well, it's going to be like 8 by the time I finish Ali Hazelwood's book, but next year maybe I should try to read like new authors, but I'm probably not gonna, let's be honest. But like, we'll see. Hopefully I will have enough that I will have a harder time picking for my list next year. But anyway guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!